going on, everyone? I'm Heath.
And I'm Jay.
You're listening to Host of Horrors, show where we discuss and review horror films based off of predetermined themes of the month. Jay.
Another month, another summer camp that I don't want to visit ever.
This one wasn't that bad.
No, this one wasn't as bad. I like the story a little bit more than the others.
Yes.
There's an actual story to it.
So...
Oh, hold on. Brought to you by...
Totally not Pepsi.
Like, totally not Pepsi. By Blue Cola.
Blue Cola.
Blue Cola, everybody. I like the story a lot in this one.
Yeah, no, this one's really good. So essentially, take the gore and the kills from Friday the 13th, the fun of Sleepaway Camp, and just give it a better story. And you have 1981's The Burning.
It burns. Burn, baby, burn.
Disco Inferno.
Burn, baby, burn. Hopefully that doesn't get us copyright claims.
I don't know. Everything else does. Fucking YouTube.
YouTube sucks. Wait, no. We love you, YouTube.
Yeah, just...
Please don't demonetize us.
Just like... I don't know. Don't say we're using a Taylor Swift song when we're literally using a scene from a movie.
That's weird, right?
There is no Taylor Swift wasn't even thought of when Nightmare on Elm Street 2 came out. The fuck, YouTube?
Oh my god, that's rich.
Anyway,
that's rich.
So The Burning, directed by Tony Maylam.
I don't honestly. Okay, this one I've never heard of this one at all. Even less so than about other ones. Like, at least I've heard of Friday the 13th and Sleepaway Camp I've heard of nothing. Absolutely nothing about this movie.
Yeah, where, like, Friday the 13th is a horror cult classic, or just a horror classic in general.
Mm-hmm.
Sleepaway Camp is a classic for, like, shock value and controversial reasons. This is a cult classic where horror film fans know about this. Not a lot of mainstream attention is given to this one. So
this is kind of like, if you're a movie buff or just happen to be a fan of Steinfeld, you might have seen this movie.
Jason Alexander's in this film.
Yeah.
So is Holly Hunter.
Not even gonna lie.
Fucking Elastigirl's in this film.
Elastigirl and freaking, what's that dude's name? It's gonna get on my nerves and I don't figure out what Jason Alexander played in Steinfeld.
Seinfeld.
Whatever.
This isn't the Berensteins.
This
is the Berensteins.
This
is Steins or Steins?
I don't know. Is it Chick-fil-A with a C or Chick-fil-A with a CK?
I don't eat Jesus chicken.
Me neither. George Costanza. That's his name. George Costanza.
Yeah, it's actually...
That was gonna annoy the crap out of me.
It's actually got a lot of famous people in this film, like including Fisher Stevens. The problem is none of these famous people are the leads. They're just the side characters. And
everybody gotta get their start somewhere.
But these side characters steal the fucking show.
Especially Dave, played by Jason Alexander.
Even Woodstock was fun. Fisher Stevens? Woodstock was kind of fun.
Not even gonna lie. Whenever I was looking at this film, I was like, see, my experience of summer camp, if I was going to have summer camp in the 80s, I would like it to be like that. Well, save for the bullying. But
I feel like the bullying's part of it.
No, it doesn't need to be, but apparently
it doesn't need to be, but it is.
It is. It's part of the culture. And you know what else is weird? Speaking of the culture, it's just like, you can tell, like, a lot of the, like, how do I put this without being, like, it's crappy? There's a lot of, like, guys that are very forceful about, like, them trying to fuck. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, bruh, like...
Rapey vibes.
Okay, since you said it, yeah. The rape culture in here and during this era is kind of weird, y'all.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I know it's the 80s, but it still is, like, weird. So I'm like, I don't know, dog.
Even our final girl, Alfred, he's a little creep.
Yeah, no. Okay, so let's get into it. Of course, yeah, everything started by this whole thing about there's these group of kids that basically play a prank on, what was it,
Cropsy.
Cropsy, the
Who
evil bastard of I guess janitor, camp counselor.
he was a maintenance man at Camp Blackfoot.
That's a very creepy name for a very creepy sounding camp.
And
Yeah.
Evidently he drank 2 bottles of whiskey a day, and it shows because that motherfucker lit up in an instant.
He looks like he was having a bender.
So yeah, they play a prank, and it's like this skull, but they put candles inside the skull just to freak him out a little bit.
That was weird because that was on Maggoty too.
Yeah, so I'm wondering where they found the skull at.
I feel like that wasn't the first kill that was done there. I'm just saying.
But Crosby freaks the fuck out, hits the skull, and then literally lights up. His whole bed lights up. He lights up. He hits a can of gas. He lights up more. The whole building is on fire, and doesn't die though. He makes it to the hospital, and after 5 years of clinical surgery, clinical recovery, and honestly probably mental recovery, he is released.
I don't know about mental recovery, dog. I don't know about all that.
Well,
Based
I
off
say
the events of this film.
I say recovery, but recovery in the same way that like someone goes to rehab just to relapse a week later. That kind of recovery.
No, dude, like, and then for no reason, it felt like for no entire reason. I guess kind of a reason, but this parts of this, the Swiss cheese is there. So he goes like, I guess to either find a place to live or trying to like, bang this hooker. But he kills the hooker, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
it kinda
I
comes
don't
out of nowhere.
understand. I don't understand why he kills the hooker. You know what? I don't. Okay, all the kills didn't really start coming to maybe about the last like half of the film. The second half of the film, that's where the kills started coming. But the first half was like everything was like a lot of build up, a lot of like jump scares, and I'm like,
Get to know your characters.
Get to know your character. So everything was more fleshed out than the other two films.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Sleepaway Camp had a little
Sleepaway
bit of
Camp
was pretty fleshed out.
It's the same way. I say Sleepaway Camp does the same thing with its cast of characters where they're memorable. I remember their names. Where like Friday the 13th, they were just kills.
Yeah, they were just like kills. Right.
I remember Alice. That's it. And I remember Kevin Bacon because it's Kevin Bacon. That's it. But I don't remember their names. I don't remember their characters.
But like, I like these characters like as like kind of mad. Like I don't say mad. As kind of mad as I didn't care much about the rapiness of like a couple of them. Eddie,
but you wanted them to die. That's
you wanted them to die, but
and they did die.
The weird part, the people that some of the people that you thought were gonna die didn't. Like there's like an actual surviving, like a good chunk of surviving characters that actually made it, and you're just like, oh, okay, we have a handful of survivors now instead of just one. Well, technically, so already no spoiler. So basically, the kills start coming right after they go on this canoe trip that is being kind of like being built up throughout the whole summer.
3-day canoe trip.
3-day canoe trip out to, I guess, the outskirts of the lake where they're at. So it's like kind of like the outskirts and then the base camp and then whatever. So they go to get there by canoe. There were a lot of like jump scares kind of leading up to it to where you knew the killer was there. But like
that was one of the most irritating things about this film was that piano wire that they kept stringing on.
Oh,
that would irritate me so much because like something as little as Crosby in the beginning, something as little as Crosby like rolling over in the bed, you just hear and what?
And then there's some parts. Oh god, there's a part towards the end where it's like the scare is happening and then nothing. And then it feels like it was reversed.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this? Like the composer, the sound people were having a ball with this imposed. Like they were just having way too much fun with this.
And speaking of weird things about the film, the lighting and the focus non-existent.
I, you know what? Was I think a $1.5 million budget. Like this is $1 million budget.
They had money back. I mean, that's 80s. That's 80s money.
Yeah, this 80s money. $1 million. You can do a lot with $1 million
Yeah,
back in the day.
so
So I'm like, you had a good, decent sized budget for this, but yet it was giving student film.
yeah,
Like,
like the focus is non-existent whatsoever, and the lighting where so they took like a natural approach when it came to lighting,
mm-hmm.
and that looks gorgeous during the day. At night, however, I don't know what the fuck was going on. Like half the time I couldn't tell what was happening.
It felt like the budget went mostly towards getting the location and getting the actors. That's it. Everything else, like, and maybe the camera and the camera person. The gaffer there just like was non-existent. They're like, oh,
No.
what's a gaffer?
They
But
didn't know that term back then.
but it does feel like there's it's a mixed bag. Like I like the story of it and the characters. My favorite character was Dave because Jason Alexander's character because he was like the I guess the comic relief, but also de facto like leader at the same time. It was like he was the funny guy, but he was the funny guy that was able to like switch into leader mode whenever he needed to. It's a little bit maybe unnecessarily sometimes,
Yeah,
but he was also like hella funny.
yeah, because you had Glacier and
The
Eddie.
bully.
They were the deal holes. You
Yeah.
really wanted them to die, but they kind of like took on that leadership role, but no one took them serious. Where Dave didn't really take that leadership role, but the younger kids would look to Dave as guidance.
Mhm.
They would ask him questions or be like, "Dave, what do we do now?"
And then
So-
looks like I think you had the counselors Todd and
Michelle.
Michelle. Todd, as it turns out later on in the film, is one of the kids that was there the day that he died.
He well didn't die. He played the prank on Crosby.
The
Crosby,
day that
yeah, Crosby didn't die.
Oh,
I mean, he
right.
was there the day Crosby
quote,
died.
quote unquote died. I mean, but whenever the prank got played, he was there. He wasn't the one who like put the bags in there, but he was like one of the ones who were like knocking on the door pretending to be a wolf. So he was there. And whenever the story was being told, you're just like, oh, because there was a point where during the canoe trip where Todd was telling the story of Cropsy, and I feel like there's no way that wasn't just a scary story to be told. Like he that was history right there that he was like reciting and was almost repeating.
Yeah. And it's weird that they did that because at the end of the film, it's almost as if you're supposed to see Alfred, who's the kid that lives at the end of the film. It's almost like the grown-up version of him telling the Crosby story yet again to a bunch of, like, he's a counselor at camp telling a bunch of kids the same story. So it's like, if anything traumatic happens in your life, just become a camp counselor and tell kids this story to scare them.
Or a comedian.
Or a comedian. Or just be a comedian.
But honestly, I'll probably would be the same because I was like, there's some way I got to get rid of this trauma, and therapy
I gotta
only work so much.
Yeah, I gotta
And-
tell someone something.
So overall, I think actually I had myself a time. Like there were a good bit of parts where I was like, ugh at, especially at like certain kills, because like, what the kill that some of these kills frustrated the shit out of me. These kills frustrated the shit out of me because some of them just came out of nowhere. The people that you thought were gonna die didn't, and didn't die till later. And the ones you thought were gonna die earlier, like later, or didn't die at all, they were like killed. I'm just like, what the fuck, man? Like one of these scares that came up earlier was whenever Sally, she just kind of taking a shit, taking a shower, all of that good stuff. You would have thought that the killer was right there because that's what it was making you want to believe. No, it was just Alfred be the creep, and that's kind of how you get your introduction.
Yeah, that's
to
your main.
Alfred?
That's your main character. Everyone, that's your final girl in the film.
The final
is
girl,
the
Alfred.
creepy little guy sneaking peeks at girls in the shower.
The strange person, strange soul. But it's also like, I'm sorry, there was a lot of burpees. It was also weird because you think that with this dude, like he'd be like more, more likable. Alfred isn't really that likable. Maybe until like the end, and even then, it's kind of he wasn't really that as likable as they could have made him out to be. You know what
He
I'm
wasn't
saying?
likable at all. I didn't like that little shit. He was weird. He was creepy. They tried to make him out to be like this outcast. Like everyone's out to get him, and that's why he's so weird and creepy. Yet David, Woodstock, and the other two. So it's like a group of 4.
It was like Dave Woodstock. Oh
And,
my gosh!
and the other 2.
Yeah, other kids.
Just the other 2. They were literally friends with him. So like
And then
there's a
earlier-
scene where he's talking to Todd and he's like, I have no friends, everyone bullies me, yada yada yada. And then the next fucking scene you see him hanging out with these 4 people as friends.
Between that, you get a piece of the introduction of Glazer, the bully that they were kind of talking about earlier. Like they were talking about him earlier, I guess, with all the muscles and all of that. So I was like, okay, cool, whatever. But you know one thing that kind of got me about these characters, speaking of, at least the world of the film. How old were these kids? How old were these kids supposed to be? Like teenagers, right?
I would say the kids would probably be anywhere from the age range of 16 to 18, but they were obviously played by 20-year-olds.
Like 21-year-olds, because
Because the counselors looked
The
older.
same.
Well,
they look the
but
same
older.
age, like 23 at the most.
Yeah, it's like Todd was the same age as David, but David was a little bit on the chubby side, where Todd was tall and built. So you took him more
Dave was
serious as a
kinda-
man.
He's kind of getting it. Todd was too.
He's got a thing for Jason Alexander.
I don't know. No, stop.
He didn't before he watched this film. Now he does.
Whatever. Anyway, it's just the fact they were smoking a lot, like smoking like cigarettes, and honestly, there's probably a little bit of weed in there too.
They're literally blunt. It looked like a blunt.
It
wasn't normally shaped, and it had some lumps in there. That's not a cigarillo. That is not a cigar. That is a fucking blunt.
Baby, that looked like they had some Swisher Sweets back then, and we're like, all right, let's go.
Mhm.
Like, so I was like, what?
420 at the camp.
But it also kind of feels like weird because I just kind of want to know what the age range was for the kids, because like they for some reason was able to like run a whole like little like black market and shit, like commissary for nudie magazines, sex paraphernalia, all of that.
They all had characteristics, because like Dave had that going on. He was also like the clown.
Yeah.
And the like the de facto leader. Like
Yeah.
people went to him. Then you had Woodstock, who was the prankster, and he also had this weird thing where like he was afraid of getting sick. Like everyone had their own then Alfred, of course, is the weird little perv. But everyone had their own personalities, even the girls, because you follow these 2 groups. You follow Todd's
the
group
boys and the girls.
Yeah, you follow Todd's group. So Todd's the counselor, and he has his group of kids.
And then you have Michelle's group.
Yeah.
So Michelle's group included Tiger, which she was kind of like, they kind of mirrored each other.
She's the young one, I would say.
Yeah, she was like the young one, kind of like Woodstock like.
Yeah, essentially. And then you had
Sally.
Sally was the one that was into Eddie, right? No, Sally was the one that was into Glacier.
Yeah, Karen
was the one into
was
Eddie.
into Eddie, yes.
So Sally would be your typical, I would say, flirt. Where
a flirt, but not really a flirt, but like she's a tease.
A tease, there you go.
I wouldn't say like that. She's like she gives innocent, like the innocent, like, girl next door kind of type. But it's like she wants to try something, but it's like, I don't know. And then
Karen's the sweetie. Like, she's sweet. I was so sad when she died.
I know.
She really was sweet.
I was sad. I was sad when Sally was killed too, because I was like, Sally did nothing wrong but try to, like, she wasn't even trying to get some dick. She was just trying to, like, I guess, like, see what Glaze is gonna do. That little 2-minute man.
That wasn't even 2 minutes, man.
That was like
45 seconds.
That was like 45 seconds, and she was all like,
he revved the engine, and then it sputtered out.
I just wasn't sure how to feel about the scene. And you know what? Speaking of the sex in there, so like there's a good bit of romance and stuff, but like it got weird very quickly because of Alfred, because of Glazer and Eddie being all like weird and rapey and all of that. So it was
Yeah,
like there
both.
were it
It was weird because both Eddie and Glacier were extremely.
Go ahead and repeat that. I'm sorry.
It was really weird because like both Eddie and Glacier were extremely forceful and pushy, where Karen was more like, "Ew, no, back away, go away, I don't want this," and Glacier and Sally for Glacier was more like, "Okay, you really need to chill out. I am into you and I do want this, but bro, chill."
You're a little bit too horny for me,
A
dog.
little too forceful.
A little bit.
And then
too
you got
forceful.
Alfred that's just watching, and that's weird.
And it's like,
But I mean, what do you expect when like the Weinstein brothers wrote the story? I will say this, for there being 5 writers for this film, I'm surprised it's as coherent as it is.
Who's directing this again?
Tony Malam?
I want to know
Malam?
what the male gaze. The male gaze was so real in this one. Like,
Yeah, Tony Malam.
In the first like few scenes of the movie, right after you get introduced to the camp, tell me why they're playing a baseball game. It was in slow motion. I don't know which girl it was.
Sally.
Sally. They made. I felt bad for how they did my girl Sally, because like they had her nipped out and jiggling in slow motion. Slow motion, y'all.
And then Karen's wearing a shirt and bikini bottoms.
And
that's it.
And
hell, even Tiger, the youngest one, who actually looks young, like you could tell she's 20, but she looks like a really soft 20. Looks very fucking young. They even had her sexualized a little bit.
Only a teeny bit.
Teeny bit, not a whole lot. Because again, she is the young one.
Not nearly as much as they were trying to do.
In like the baseball game, though, everyone was a little sexualized in the baseball game.
And then that's the introduction you got to maybe most of the characters was through that baseball game. Mm-hmm. But it's like, why was the camera that much on Karen's ass?
Because it was a Miramax production in the early 80s.
God, that part annoyed me because I was like, bruh, I get it. It's the 80s, you're in a summer camp. You were doing this from the view of the horny boys, but I'm like, come on now. You can do better.
Well, they could have just done that because there's even a comment where like Eddie's like, look at that ass. They could have just showed the ass a little bit and then done. They didn't need slow-mo titties. They didn't need Baywatch titties.
They wanted Baywatch titties.
They really wanted the Baywatch titties.
Like, Baywatch titties before Baywatch titties were a thing. And, like, the most messed up part about it is like, at least in Baywatch, they were, like, adults. These were, like, barely legal. Like, teens, y'all. Like,
yeah,
come on.
Well, supposedly teens.
The characters were, like,
the characters are
so
teens.
you're just like, come on now.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, it's not like Sleepaway Camp where... I'm still not going to forgive that film for that.
So... Before we go any further, I'm just like, I really wanted to just ask, I wonder how this film even got made. Is there any history about how this film got made? Because like it came a year after Friday the 13th, and I guess all this whole sleeping camp,
summer
camp trend.
It really took off. It really took off because there was a summer camp film all throughout the 80s. All throughout the 80s. I mean, you had Cheerleader Camp, you had Twisted Nightmare, The Madman, which we're actually doing next week. I think it's just Madman, not The Madman, but Madman Mars. We're doing that next week. Yeah, no, it's Sleepaway Camp, Friday the 13th, all the Friday the 13th.
It feels like the 1980s was the year, like almost a decade, I guess, was of like summer camp slashers. Like it really felt like that really came into prominence during that time.
Yeah, because you don't get a whole lot of summer camp movies in the 90s or early 2000s.
It felt like it was very of its time.
Yeah, because the closest ones we have modern, there is, I cannot think of the name of it right now, but there is a summer camp musical horror movie. But I didn't want to do that this month. I wanted to save that for our horror movie musical theme that we're going to do eventually. And there's also, I think it's called Little Monsters, where like it's a children's camp, but it's also a zombie outbreak.
I really want to see that one.
Yeah, that one looks good. We may do that for like because there's a whole subgenre of fucking zombie comedies. We may do that.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So,
Oh,
but
that would
no,
be
like I do
exciting.
want to check out the musical one because I'm a fucking fan of horror movies and musicals. I actually enjoy the shit out of musicals, and there's been some surprising horror musicals. Like, have you ever seen Anna and the Apocalypse?
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
It's so much fun.
But yeah, like I think the one that I like is the one you don't like.
Repo?
Yeah, I love Repo.
I don't mind Repo. It's not good.
That's
It's
the point. It's camp. That's the fucking point. Like Repo is camp incarnate, and no one can tell me anything. Repo is camp. Everything as bad as it looks, it's supposed to be bad, and we love it for it. We love it, and that's that. Like we can talk about Repo on another day because I'm a Repo stan girl. That's one of my favorite like musicals.
We'll get into it eventually.
Oh yeah, we'll get into it. We'll get into it eventually. Yeah. So, what would you say is your favorite scene from this?
Okay, actually, I'm glad you brought that up because I do really appreciate this, and I almost forgot to talk about it. It's
You
the
think
end.
I brought it up.
I didn't mean it like that.
I'm sorry.
It's when the credits rolled.
The credits roll. Yeah.
No, it's the end confrontation between Todd, Alfred, and Crosby, and it's
Dan Crosby.
Crosby,
Cropsy.
Crosby.
Yeah, no, it's so weird to say Cropsy. Cropsy.
Anyway, it's the end where Todd goes to the ruins of the mine shaft.
Okay, I want to talk about that part. That was one of my favorite parts too.
Yeah, it's so good. Oh, the tension is so good.
The tension was great, perfect. The world, like whoever did set deck on that thing, they did that, and then it's like a very like famous callback to the beginning because it was the same area that would just happen to have ruins in it. So I feel like the ruins there were also I feel like that was also part of where he was before.
It could have been because in the story that Todd says is after Cropsy burnt, the whole camp burnt down.
Yeah,
which is a little unbelievable, but whatever.
I don't know about the whole camp, but at least his spot had to burn.
Yeah,
down.
and it's cool because you can see the technique that they use to make the ruins bigger than they actually were. They just kind of like filmed Todd moving around the same place, but in different close-up, faraway shots, different angles. So, even though you can clearly tell once you notice that stuff that the area they're filming in is probably just a itty bitty little area, it's cool that they use techniques to make it seem like he's actually wandering through these ruins.
And it looks very like big too. I don't know. It felt not like a tonal shift. But like they were trying to like, okay, when did Indiana Jones come out? Was it 1987? The first one?
Oh, it was before then. Indiana Jones?
Yeah,
it's way before then.
Because I feel like that's what it was giving to me. That last scene, it kind of felt like they were like putting on their best Indiana Jones impression. Like Todd was being Indiana Jones.
81.
Oh, it came out the same year.
Same year.
Oh,
so who did it first?
Who knows? Ooh. Who knows? What if this was the inspiration for Indiana Jones? George Lucas, I'm coming straight for you.
You're a burning fan.
George for you and Steven Spielberg. I see y'all. I see y'all besties.
But no, I really enjoyed that part because literally edge of your seat tension. And what's crazy is there's a point where so you're on the edge of your seat just waiting because there's no music, there's no sound. They got rid of that annoying fucking piano wire. They're just letting Todd roam around. And like I said, it's natural lighting that they go for so you don't see what's going on, which I really don't appreciate. But in this one instance, I do because Todd is actually fumbling around, crashing into things, yada, yada, yada. But you don't see what he's crashing into. You don't see what's going on. So you don't know if at any point the killer could be right behind Todd. That's actually a little creepy. And then you get the big reveal that shows Todd actually being there, being one of the kids that causes the burning, so to speak. And you think, okay, so they're finally going to clash. They're finally going to get in there. They're finally going to attack each other. And then back to silence. Back to Todd roaming around. And you're like, oh, fuck, when am I going to get this? It was like the greatest tease ever. And I actually really enjoyed it.
I think the way that they recorded it was put together, it was edited, is the fact that I really think that it was all in his head. Like, because you didn't hear silence at all. You didn't hear anything from Alfred. Because Alfred was, I thought he was dead. Like, I thought he was like dead and gone. So I was like, oh no, he's about to discover Alfred's dead. And then nothing. All you see is the flashbacks. And then you see that beautiful fire. Like, I don't know why. I just really was a big fan of just the way the fused fire to frame the scenes and all of that. Especially like trying to just kind of juxtapose the past to the present.
I do wish that flamethrower Cropsby had. I wish that would have came into play a little bit more. You never see a slasher. I mean, the shears was kind of cool. That's a little, everyone's got to have that iconic weapon. His were the shears. Then the motherfucker brings a flamethrower out of nowhere.
Baby, he was out for blood.
He said, "Fuck you, Todd." I remember you.
The way, that part, surprised the shit out of me. Because I was like, oh, he was serious. He was really about to get his revenge. The same way he was about to, vaporize that motherfucker. And you know what, though? It kind of sucked because even though Todd was the one who, I guess, didn't, he was there.
No, he was there.
He was there, but he wasn't really up. He was outside.
He may not have lit the candle, but none of them technically lit Homeboy on fire. I'm not even going to try to say his name anymore. No one technically lit him on fire. The worst thing they did was not do anything once he was on fire and then not say anything afterwards.
Yeah.
So yet Todd's at fault.
Okay. And I guess it's like that. It's weird because it's like there wasn't really much in the form of regret.
No.
Todd didn't really show much regret or anything.
No, he hit that bitch remorse with an axe.
He was
dead in the head.
So I'm like, I guess there was no remorse for that dude. They said, "Oh, you evil bitch, I'm finna be evil too."
Yeah, no, I mean, even Alfred was like, you know what? I'm gonna turn this dude into a spooky story. I'm gonna shit all over his legacy.
I mean, shoot.
No one gave a shit.
No one cared about him at all.
Even the nurse and the wannabe doctor in the beginning were poking fun at how burnt he was.
Yeah, no, that was kind of fucky though. I was kind of like, bruh, come on now, y'all can't be doing that. That was almost violating HIPAA laws and shit. Yeah, that part it was funny, but I did feel uncomfortable with it because I'm like, come on, bruh. Don't be making fun of the old boy like that. I know he's burnt to a crisp. He looked like a turkey leg. His arm looked like a turkey leg, y'all.
Yeah.
But
his face looked melted.
That was my favorite. That was a pretty cool.
That was a cool reveal.
Yeah. But I don't know. I guess I hate. Only thing I don't care about is the fact that Alfred turned out to be the final girl. That's what got me.
I wish he would have died. I wish, because Todd's technically your final girl, if you want to keep calling him that. Todd's technically one of your final girls. Alfred is the damsel in distress, so he would be the final girl in this instance. I just wish he would have died. I wish Alfred died. Todd showed up and was like, "Oh no, I'm late, you bastard!" And then they had a final clash.
I was like, and I did like that final clash where. You thought everything was going all right. They were on their merry way getting back while Michelle was getting the cops that was in the helicopter. But no, he comes around, grabs Alfred, and about to pull him back. But they're like, nope. Todd grabs that doggone axe and boom, right in the face.
and then lit him on fire.
Add insult to injury.
They stabbed him with shears, hit him in the
shears.
face with an axe, and then lit his ass on fire.
Like,
and then left.
You know what? That's like my top 10 most brutal deaths I've seen.
Yeah.
That was, like, I'm not even gonna lie, like, as like little gore you really see, other than maybe the hooker, the it was pretty brutal the way that these deaths kind of came about.
They were brutal because where Friday the 13th, each death is kind of unique and has its own shock value to it. All these were kind of just not, I wouldn't say realistic in the way it happens. Let me take this back.
Maybe
not realistic in the way it looks, but the way it happens. So, like, he's literally just stabbing them with shears, cutting their fingers off, just simple things like that. It's all realistic. Nothing's like hugely, bombastic. It's not like they're trying to top each kill.
Even though the one kill where the kids were on the raft, that was
also a good sequence, because you're thinking the whole time, you're like, oh god, because they're looking for Karen,
because Karen was the first kill
and they can't find Karen, so they build a raft because all the canoes are gone, and they start rowing the raft to get back to camp, and they find one of their canoes, and me and Jay both are like, yeah, Karen's gonna be in there. Karen's in there. Nope.
That was a good bait and switch, because we all thought it was gonna be Karen, but no.
Nope.
He popped out
and got them bitches.
He murked them. And I was like, oh my god, murked them motherfuckers. And none of them really deserved this, Freddie. None of them really deserved it. Like
Poor Woodstock.
Poor Tiger.
Tiger was there?
I think Tiger. No.
I thought Tiger made it.
No, I can't remember.
Tiger did make it because she was complaining to Melissa.
You're right. What was the? No, it was
Was it Holly Hunter?
I think it may have been Holly Hunter.
Holly, no.
It was the girl in the green that I really liked.
It still throws me off.
She was hilarious.
She was hilarious.
She was
like, I wanted her and Dave to get married.
Like, her and Dave were just like a match made in heaven.
They were cute.
They were adorable.
It still throws me off that fucking Holly Hunter was in this film.
And, one last thing before you wrap this up. Okay, so I hated the way that it was like teasing, like, okay, we're not going to show nudity because, we're classier than that. Then it's like, oh, you're going to have titties.
But, like, the weirdest ways possible.
Wait, so the shower scene with Sally, they're like, okay, we're not going to show any boobs. They're not going to show any nudity. And then, like, all of a sudden, it's like, they lower the camera ever so slightly, and then boobs.
What's
like,
funny
really?
is so, like, the camera, like Jay was saying, they had the camera placed in a way where it's just like, it's like chest up. So, like, you see the shoulders and everything. And they even did that with, like, this low angle where, like, you see your face, but it's still chest up. You don't see anything. And then it just slowly lowers.
And it's like,
really? After, like, minutes of not showing anything, you're just going to get a little bit of titty.
It's like, you just couldn't resist.
And then the same thing...
Weinsteins.
And then the same thing happened with Karen, where she goes skinny dipping with Eddie. But again, it's shot to where you see her butt, and that's it. And you're like, okay, nothing's going to happen. And then you get this faraway shot of her frontal, and you see that she's nude, but it's a faraway shot at night, and it's blurry.
And
so
they didn't really bother to light the scene. So it's like, oh yeah, no, she's nude, but like she's in a dark nude, so it's like you're really skinny dipping.
You don't see anything.
You don't see it, and only reason why I saw it, I was like, is that her boobs? Because Miss Girl had tan lines out the wazoo,
and it wasn't good tan lines because like swimsuits back in the day were a little bigger than like how they are now, so the bitch was pasty white.
Oh, pasty white. You saw
it was just like a big plaster of white.
I was like, you can tell that they put a little bit too much spray tan on her. just a little bit. But that's kind of my last thing.
Yeah, that's about it. Final
Final
thoughts, and
thoughts.
what would you rate it?
My final thoughts. Like I had a kind of a fun time watching it. I mm, I'm just tired of sexualization in these like summer camp movies because that's what it feels like. It's been like I guess because summer camp. Of course, you're gonna like have a little bit of that. I didn't really have that experience. You
It's
know,
also
but
the time period.
yeah, everybody was like horny. It feels like the '80s was like the most horny time.
It honestly, yeah.
'80s were very very
Like people
horny.
talk about the 70s being horny with like the hippies and everything, but nah, dude. 80s were some drug-filled perverts.
Yeah, and I'm just like, this is a lot of like sexual like energy going on, and I'm like, cool, I get it, teenagers, but it's like, bruh. But I did feel like, other than that, I can see myself being in that universe, save for the kills, but I can see like before the kills started, I could see myself actually having fun with them because those they look like they're having fun.
Yeah.
And especially in the canoe part where they literally wet the camera up a lot, that was funny.
Yeah.
That it looks like they were having a lot of fun.
Yeah, it literally seemed like they didn't know what to do, so they just said, "You know what, guys? Get in the canoes and have some fun. We're gonna shoot a scene."
And I think what I also liked was that ending scene with the that brutal like death, like almost a death. Yeah, the brutal kill, like adding insult to injury. I like that, and then the final part with the almost history repeating itself. That was pretty cool. I like that. So overall, so far, this is probably gonna be my highest rating, 3.5.
Hmm.
Solid 3.5.
Nice. I'm giving it a 4. I really, 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 really had a lot of fun with this film. Yeah, solid 4. Like, I'd rewatch this. I would recommend this to people.
Yeah, no, I like this one. This one's
Like,
very good.
like for Friday the 13th, for example, I could say you could probably skip the first one.
If you're a fan of Jason Voorhees, get the first one.
Well, even just in general, because like the other than the kills, there's not a whole lot you're missing from the first movie. Honestly, I'm being perfectly honest.
Wow,
Yeah, I'm also not a huge Friday the 13th fan.
fair. That's
Not
fair.
not huge on it. There's a couple of films that I'm like, fuck yeah, this is awesome. But yeah, I don't know. You could skip that one. Sleepaway Camp, if you're, I don't know, if you're into it. If you're into horror, probably check it out. I don't know. I would legitimately recommend this film.
Speaking of recommendations, it's free on Tubi.
On Tubi.
So
just check it out.
yeah,
Just you have nothing better to do with your life. You're watching us. I know that for a fact. You have nothing better to do. Watch this movie.
watch this movie and tell us what you think in the comments
Yeah.
because we love engagement here.
Yeah. Also, if you like the video, hit that like button. Also, subscribe, hit the bell notification to get notified whenever we do drop another video, and check out our other material.
Because we also have parking lot reviews and other episodes of the podcast. And we also have other kind of like podcasty episodes where we talk about like what made us like doing this, like being in the film industry or just like watching movies in general, what attracts us to it.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. You have a good bit of content you can listen to. So
Yeah,
go ahead.
We're
I know you want
also
to.
we're also on podcast platforms.
Podclass.
Yeah, for some reason when I try to say
Podclass.
platform after podcast, class comes out. But anyway, yeah, we're on Apple, Spotify, shit like that. So
And of course, we're also on social media. So on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram,
Letterboxd.
Letterboxd, and other platforms like that. So just follow us and engage with us, talk to us.
Yeah.
We like talking about movies.
and tune in next time because we will be checking out the 1982 film Madman, directed by Joe. I'm gonna fuck this up. Ginoni?
Maybe this is all Italian. Hold on.
Joe Ginoni?
I'm going to look this up. Gioni.
Gioni. Joe Gioni.
Yeah, Joe Ginoni. Yeah, Joe Ginoni. That's it.
Gioni.
Joe Ginoni.
Anyway, yeah, so we're watching Madman. Should be fun. I haven't seen this one yet.
Oh, we're both going in
Yeah.
blind.
Ooh.
Oh, I'm excited.
So tune in, tune in next week, and until then, I've been Heath,
And I've been Jay.
and you've been listening to
Host of Horrors.
Bye.
Bye.